What's good, people? Welcome back to the Axing Coaching Podcast. And today we have our first guest, episode 3. Ethan is in the house. So, if you don't know Ethan, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So I am Ethan. I've been coached by Keaton for just under 3 years now. Training for properly for about 8 years. Before that, I started around when I was 14, and then decided when I was 16 it's time to actually go to the gym and do something other than a bicep curl. So from there onwards, it's just been a natural progression in the gym. It's been great. It's it started out as what the girls find attractive, people in like Vampire Diaries with their six pack and their like bare chest, and then when I went, I was like, nah, it's cheaper to just buy good clothes. I'm going to have to, I want to get bigger for myself. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's why you got all the tattoos and that now.
That's exactly right, yeah.
But, yeah, so kind of one of the reasons that we are here today is to chat about your journey a little bit and your recent show. So, for people that don't know, you competed last weekend and you done pretty well. First show, top 3, came second. Obviously looked absolutely phenomenal on stage, if I do say so myself. So good chat about that journey a little bit and kind of what it takes for anyone that could maybe potentially be interested in competing and just get a bit of a background, going in depth and what it took and how you felt and all that jazz, and just, have we chat about it. So why don't you run through what happened last weekend from your perspective and, give us a bit of an insight.
Lots of anxiety, or as Keaton would call it, nerves. So a few years ago, when I really started taking training properly and serious, I've loved bodybuilding, I've loved competing, and I thought, man, I'd love to do that. I think I would love to step on stage and to kind of push myself that way, but I was like, nah, I don't have the genetics for it. I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to do it. It's only for the genetically gifted. And then one day I just went, that's an excuse. I need to just train harder and fix my nutrition and really work for it. And so the last couple of years have basically been spent priming myself, kind of like, right, I'm going to grow, I'm going to put in that effort to get there. And then last year we did a bit of a photo shoot prep, and I decided, next year I'm doing it. So we took the rest of the year off and we went, right, we need to grow as much as we can in this time period, bring up the weaknesses, and then go into prep from the 4th of January, and which is exactly what we did. 7 months almost, 25 weeks to the day of just pure graft, and then right up to the show, that kind of like last 4 weeks, you're like, I'm not ready. I'm never going to be ready. I'm not going to lose that extra bit of fat or that little bit of water weight or whatever, and then sitting those kind of 2 days before show, it's like, this is real, this is going to happen, I'm going to step on stage in front of hundreds of people. It just so happened to also be the one show of the year that had sold out in that federation. It was the biggest show weekend of the year so far, so meant that my class was stacked, rather than the kind of, right, I'm going to step on and just get the gold trophy because I'm the only person in the class. There had to be like a lineup of 10 people with me, which definitely made the kind of coming second feel a lot better and cemented that I should be on stage. So
what class was it? What were you competing in and stuff, just for people that don't know, that may be listening?
Yeah, so because I refuse to train legs, it's men's physique. So it's like I kind of gravitate more to the men's physique look. Like I like that kind of where it started of you're on the beach, you walk off, you could step on stage. Obviously now it's totally transformed as a division, but it's just the one that I like. So I stepped on for PCA First Timers 4 in Derby for men's physique, which, as I say, was awesome. It was just sold out and so many people.
It was very busy on the day, very hot as well.
Yeah.
I was travelling down from Glasgow down to Derby, was like, honestly, getting the plane to Ibiza or something. I think it was about 16 or 17 when I left, and then landed at 8 o'clock at night, and it was 26 or something, 24 degrees at 8 at night. It was like, going on holiday almost.
So I said to Katie right before I got off the train, I never packed a hoodie or a jacket or nothing, it's going to be terrible. And then I got off and it was 27 degrees. I was like, never mind.
So when you first started getting into the gym, and when you joined the team a couple of years ago, did you know that getting on stage was something that you wanted to do, or did that evolve and did that grow? And as you got into things more, did you then realize that getting on stage was maybe something that you wanted to try, or was it always there?
I think it evolved from a deep rooted desire. So like a few years ago, it's something that I was really like. I loved following bodybuilding. I loved following competing, but I was like, I wrote myself out of it. I was like, I can't do that. Like I'll just always follow it, but I'll never be able to do it. And then kind of the more that I progressed in our like kind of training journey, the more I could see myself putting size on and like really executing things properly. I thought, do you know what? I need to give it a go. I need to kind of just push myself there. And it was like natural progression because to get that conditioned, you're never going to do it for a holiday. You're never going to kind of just go, oh, I'm going to do this for the fun of it. You need that goal at the end of it. And so it's something I wanted to see myself that lean. I wanted to see myself with like vascularity in my legs and in my abs and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, right, I want to compete. I've got a passion for competing and I want to see myself in that condition. I just need to shoot for it. And that's kind of ultimately how it evolved to that decision. It was kind of more a self-belief thing, deciding, actually, no, I'm good enough. I can do it. I just need to put the work in it. And it's paid off tenfold.
Would you say that self-belief grew because of how consistent you were being in the gym and how you were nailing everything, not just like through a diet and things, but taking like off-season, taking bulking phases, gaining phases pretty seriously? Would you say that the self-belief grew to a point where you then, like you said, took the leap, or do you think the self-belief was there from beforehand?
No, I think definitely that kind of consistency. I think like walking the walk, seeing yourself doing it, kind of it makes you believe that you can do it. So like when I started the gym, I was never consistent with my nutrition. I was kind of consistent with training to kind of moderate discomfort. And as I kind of, once I joined the team and I kind of learnt these habits, and obviously it's been years to kind of like get to where I am now, and even then there's always room for improvement, but like taking an off season more seriously, actually hitting my calories, not eating 4,000 calories one day and then 1,500 the next day and saying I'm bulking, and actually going, right, I need to consistently hit my nutrition, my macros, and then seeing that growth come and then cutting down and seeing that success there is kind of what led me to be like, there was variables that I wasn't taking as seriously and I was just saying it was down to genetics, and that's kind of helped me like realise my goals aren't as out of reach as I thought they were.
It's like the Alex Hormozy saying that everyone's throwing around now, like that confidence just comes from, stacking up proof. So
Yeah.
when you're going through your gaining phases and when you're maybe, dieting down to go on holiday, you're consistently stacking proof that you actually, you can put the work in, and then that work leads to results. So maybe when it comes to then viewing like a show prep like we've just been through, in the past that you've been through, processes, you've put in the work and you've got that end outcome. So, why would a show prep be any different really? Like if you're starting that prep and if you tick the boxes you're going to get to where you want to be, then it really just comes down to then stepping on stage and battling against other people to obviously try and take the win. But because you've been through gaining phases before, you ticked all the boxes, you got to where you wanted to be. It was really just a case of repeating that, I think, over the course of a prep for show. Obviously, a little bit more intense for a show, but the kind of fundamentals are staying relatively consistent. So something I'm interested in, something I want to know is like, did the expectations meet reality with your show? Like, did it go down how you thought it was going to go down? Did did it feel as good getting on stage as what you thought and what you'd imagined in your head? Or if not, then dive into that. But did the expectations meet reality?
I would say no, then yes. So like obviously I'm sure we'll discuss this more, but my ability to lose body fat like kind of over the last couple of years hasn't been great. I think one of like my favourite phrases you'll know is paralysis by analysis. I think that I can get so caught up in analysing all of these variables that collectively give you data, but individually are obsolete in the grand scheme of things. And I think that my self-belief wasn't there come the start of prep. Like I knew I wanted to do it. I knew deep down that I was going to execute it properly, but I wasn't sure how I was going to place. I was like, well, at the very least, at the end of this, like taking the surface level placings out of it, I'm going to have executed the best diet I've ever executed, and I'm going to be in the best shape I've ever been in. Like that's worth it. But then as prep progressed and as I seen the body fat coming off, I was like, no, actually, I think I could do really well here, which kind of motivated me to push it even further, to not miss the steps, to not miss the diet, to not patch cardio just because I was really tired and fatigued, and just get everything ticked off. And then come show day, I think the only time beyond the very start where I had any form of real doubt was kind of the day before and the day of, where I was like, nerves were kind of racking up and I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready or whatever. And then when I kind of got to backstage, I did my pump up, those were kind of fading, and then as soon as I walked on stage, it was like a flick to just switched. I was in my element. I was like, this is where I want to be. I love it. I've watched a lot of people in the past, like Chris Bumstead's a great example of saying, be in the moment. Don't, like, you're only on stage for like kind of 10 minutes. You've done 6 months of work to get there, and you need to be present in that moment and just standing there. Like, my family had come down to see me. Obviously, you were there, having that support, hearing people cheering for me. Naturally, being the loudest people in the audience was a great ego boost as well. And then just kind of living in it, and I felt confident, and that fed back into my feedback from the judges, where they were saying that like the confidence on stage, that stage presence was there, and it was great, and it was one of the kind of things that they'd said attributed to my success. And that was simply just comes down to kind of a bit of self-belief in the moment, but also just being present, enjoying that experience and for what it is.
It's weird that you say that, like, a day before and the day of, there was a little bit of doubt creeping in. Obviously, I was there for the day of, so came down the night before and woke up and met you in the morning. We went through all your meals and all your protocols and everything like that. From my perspective, you just seemed really in the zone. Like, there was no nerves for like that I could visually see coming through. Like, maybe you were a little bit quiet and things like that. So maybe from that side, I could say, okay, maybe he's, getting in the zone. But honestly, you seemed pretty confident. Like, you seemed up for it. Like, it didn't really seem as though there was too much doubt creeping in. And I think that had a massive impact as well on the day. Like, I think if you were to sit there and be questioning yourself on the day, am I ready? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to do well? Who am I going up against? Like, I think that would have massively taken away from your overall experience on stage, and I think that would have shined through as well. I think you would be able to tell. I think it was quite easy to tell as well if someone was maybe getting on stage and they weren't 100% confident in their physique. But like you said, like, we'd done the work, you were good to go, you were ready, you were conditioned, your posing was nailed, your tan looked good, we knew exactly what to do with your food, we weren't going to overspill, anything like that. So I think just being in control of all those variables as well just meant that you could focus on what you had to do, and that was just getting up on stage, enjoying it, going through your routine, and just showing off like all the hard work from like the last, like you said, 6 or 7 months. But it was really, really cool. And then seeing you come off stage, you're obviously on a massive high. Would you say the post-show period, like, are you still on a bit of a high now?
Yeah, I think that post-show has been harder than the 25 weeks, and it's only been a week. I think that when you're leading up to the show, it's so easy, or at least it was for me, to stay disciplined because I had that end goal in sight. I think that now that isn't there anymore, and realistically I'll probably not be on stage anytime soon, has kind of shifted that kind of like just autopilot mode that I was on, where I'm in a high because I love the experience and I placed really well in my first show, but at the same time I'm kind of like get those post-show blues when I'm like, I just want to do it again. Like, I'm trying to work out exactly when I can get back in but still have enough time to make the progress, and then I'm also like, no, realistically I need longer than that, and just I'm in a bit of a kind of limbo just now where I'm not sure the direction, which is what, like, I'm really fortunate that I booked a holiday for the beginning of August, because it still has that kind of short-term goal, and it's breaking it down short, mid and long-term wise. So like short-term, I've got a holiday in August, then we'll kind of keep maintaining through August, and then I've got another holiday in the middle of September, which obviously I'll probably be going into a gaining phase during September, so I can really enjoy that one. And then it's just kind of breaking it up. Instead of thinking, right, say I'm taking next year out, like the entirety of next year, instead of going, right, I've got a whole year, and then just going and kind of messing the whole process up because I'm like, oh, it's fine, I've got a year, I can just eat what I want. It's like, no, short term, what have I got in front of me? And then just doing that every month instead of kind of going, right, I've got a full year and then I'm prepping again, because it'll set me up to be better next time.
I mean, like post dieting phases in general for like anyone is pretty tough with, you know, getting on stage and competing. It just takes that to like a whole new extreme. But I say that to everyone, like the post dieting period is often much, much harder than the actual diet itself for the exact reasons that you've said there. Like there's no goal anymore. When you're dieting, you're shooting for maybe a holiday, maybe you know, a certain feeling or a certain weight. When you get to that point and achieve that, it's really, really easy to just let loose. And all of a sudden, like, you can be right back to where you started in 2 or 3 months. So actually just being just as strict, if not even more strict, for even sort of like a month or two after a dieting period, after anything, can really sort of set you up for the next 6 months to a year. And that's, you know, that's largely going to dictate how your life looks for that period of time, what you're doing. So that is a huge, huge part of it, and it's something that we're navigating right now, and something that we're setting out, and something we've got a plan in place for. So we kind of know exactly what we're doing. But yeah, for the average Joe, it can definitely be a tricky period. Do you have any tips or anything that you're using right now? Obviously, I could go into things, but I want to get it from your experience. You know, just finish the show. Where's your head going at when maybe those cravings kick in, and you know you wanna go off plan?
For me and for anybody that starts a diet phase or a prep that isn't in the best body composition, it's a lack of willingness to go back to that. I think that the immediate gratification of going off plan is never going to be worth more than the long-term gratification of not being fat. So when I went into this prep, as we've said, it was 25 weeks, but it was only as long as that because my starting point was so poor. And kind of, there's a few things that I tell myself. So straight off of the show, I had a cheat day. Like I had Ben and Jerry's, I had cookies, I had an Indian, and then the Sunday I was probably about 80% back on plan, but still allowed myself a wee bit of treats. And then kind of Monday onwards, I've just been back on plan as if I'm on prep, and we've seen my calories come up slightly. My body weight's kind of holding in that kind of level playing ground, which means that obviously my body's responding properly to it. But I think that ultimately, the next time I compete, I don't want to be fat, because when I work this hard, I want it to be to get into even better condition, but not to get into the same condition. And if I let myself go now, that's going to factor into how long I can have it as an off season, to my overall confidence throughout the year. If I need to take a full year out of competing to kind of grow, well, my starting point, the best that I look throughout that entire phase is only going to be my starting point. I'm only going to composition-wise get worse throughout that phase. And where we take that, it doesn't need to mean necessarily putting on pounds and pounds of fat, but to grow, you need to be prepared to put on a little bit of body fat, which means that I'm not going to be as lean as the starting point. So when I'm thinking, oh my God, right now, the only thing I want is a cake, I want to go and have a donut, that'd be amazing. That 30 seconds of joy followed by days of guilt isn't worth it for me. And then the starting point for where I go to next is more important to me than having that kind of short-term gratification, because ultimately when my calories get higher, and it's a waiting game, when my calories get higher, I'll have more flexibility to have these things, but right now I don't. And so what I tell myself, if I could do it for 25 weeks without batting an eyelid, I can do it for another 8. It's not that hard.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You've already proven to yourself that you can stay on plan to an absolute T for 25 weeks. So you know deep down that you can avoid these kind of foods, and you can avoid maybe, you know, giving into some cravings and stuff like that for another 6, not even that, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And it's not as though, you know, we can't factor in off-plan meals and stuff. You know, you got your birthday and things like that coming up. You got holidays and stuff coming up. We're definitely going to be factoring in some off-plan meals, but it's just not going to town on it. And, you know, actually having a plan there for these meals out, which I think is where a lot of people will go wrong as well. They maybe get to where they want to be. All of a sudden, the plan that got them there is completely out the window. You still need to have a plan in place to manage things that might just be slightly different. So that kind of goes on quite nicely, to be honest. The chatting about like mindset, discipline, delayed gratification and stuff like that there. Kind of what I was wanting to go into was some things on your prep, hurdles, going through tough days. What did you maybe do to stay on track? Any non-negotiables that you'd recommend for people maybe thinking about competing? So what was let's go through sort of physical and mental aspect, because getting in that condition and getting in that shape is, yes, it's very hard physically to do that, but it's also very hard mentally to do that as well. Was there any sort of mental hurdles that you weren't expecting to experience through your prep?
The last 4 weeks, I would say, is when this factors in. I expected it to be a lot less tunnel visioned kind of midway through, and it wasn't. I was so tunnel visioned to the goal. I think that a lot of that can be attributed to my support network. Katie, my partner, was basically just gave up 7 months for me to pursue that. My family in the house, when I was tired and huffy, well, really supportive still. They pushed me to get there. But I think that, watching people compete, they always go on about that last stage of prep, and it's like, if you don't feel like this, you're not lean enough. And I used to think, when I was going through prep, I was thinking, I don't feel anything near that, I'm going to be fine. And then I hit that last 4 weeks where I had no energy, my libido was gone, I was always hungry. Just something as simple as walking was difficult. I felt like I was constantly dragging my legs through sand, and that mentally took a huge toll on me, where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
That definitely separates a normal fat loss, a normal diet phase with prep. You see, preps all over social media, people getting in an absolutely ridiculous condition, and you'll maybe get a lifestyle client that wants to get, maybe just as shredded as someone on stage, and trying to explain to them that that is not maintainable. That's not a place where you want to be. Like you said, libido's going to be gone, energy is going to be gone, your food focus is going to be absolutely through the roof, but people are still, I want to get just as shredded as the people on stage. I want to get that lean. I want to see what it's like, and kind of glamorize it. Yeah. It's probably not a glamorous experience apart from the moment you actually get on stage and show it off, and you feel pretty good over those couple of days, and then it's all worth it. But those last couple of weeks are tough.
Even something as simple as speaking. I remember I was a week before we stepped on stage, so as I was fat loading, I was sitting on the couch with Katie, and my mum was across, and they were having a conversation, which I was in my brain kind of a part of, but physically wasn't able to communicate at all. They were speaking, and I was kind of thinking about things that they were saying and responding in my head, and they're like, Ethan, you've not spoken 20 minutes. And I'm like, I physically can't. I do not have the energy to even just speak to you right now, so just crack on, I'm not doing it.
I literally seen this happen over the course of a few weeks, where me and you were at the start just checking in once a week, having our call every week, and then towards the end we were checking in twice a week, still having our call every week. So communication grew, towards the back end of prep. And I'd say for the first 10, 12 weeks, every single check-in we would have, it would get to the point where we were going over your mood and how you were feeling. It was great. Don't even feel like I'm dieting. This is easy. Jumping on calls with you first thing in the morning. Big smile on your face. Aye, mate, feel good, really good week, ticking off the boxes. Just need to repeat and go again. All of a sudden, probably 3 or 4 weeks out, phone Ethan first thing in the morning, 6:30. How you getting on? Aye, all right. just smile, gone. Check-ins, asking how you're feeling as well was no longer, this is easy. It was more so, I'm getting done what I need to get done, and that's it.
Yeah, it became very clinical towards the end, where it was I've got I just broke my day into segments. So it was right, I need to do this many steps before I get to work. I need to do this many steps in work. And then that leaves me with X amount of steps at the end of the day, plus my cardio. If I can nail all of that, we're good. We've smashed it. But even phoning Katie, because we're obviously doing long distance just now, and I'd be on the phone to her at night, and she'd be like, I hate you. I actually hate talking to you. It's just, it's boring. I had nothing, I couldn't contribute to the conversation unless it was about prep. And even then, I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to get it done, go to bed, do it again tomorrow, and then eventually it'll be show day and I'll be buzzing. And I mean, everybody preaches, and I would preach myself, like, live in the moment, enjoy that process, because the biggest part about stage is that process. But those last 3 or 4 weeks, it was just like, get up, do what I need to do, can I go to bed? And I went from going to bed in my off season at like between 10 and 11 to some nights 6:30 just to go to bed. I was like, and you're so tired, and then you get into bed, you hit the pillow, and you're awake, and then you fall asleep, and you'll sleep, and I would wake up at like 4:30 and just be bouncing off the walls, and I'd be like, right, might as well get up now. And I've got no energy. Like, that first 20 minutes, I'm like, wow, I feel great. And then I've got no energy. And Katie was like, I can't wait for this to be over, because like, I don't want to speak to you. I'm like, thanks for the support.
when me and Ethan first started working together, it was a case of Ethan wasn't a morning person. I would say loved your lie-ins, especially over the weekends and things like that. He also first told me that he wasn't a picky eater. That was I'd say a blatant lie. But towards the end of the prep, it was, Ethan texting me at like 5:30 in the morning, ready for the call. Now coming over, even on the way to this podcast today, we're chatting about how your taste buds have changed so much during prep. So definitely changed the kind of person that you are, I would say. But touching on that note with support network and things, obviously you said there that your girlfriend Katie and your family were super, super supportive. Do you think that the prep would have been possible if you didn't have such a good support network?
No. I mean, I am quite outside of the norm when it comes to like kind of the gym bodybuilding, where it's not just that, I do it because I want to feel good or look good or whatever. It's like, I want to take it to an extreme, and your support network's going to dictate how easily obtainable that goal is. I think like my parents are extremely supportive. They like whatever I want to put my mind to, they'll be like, yeah, do it, go for it. And my mum is very good to sit down and talk to, and they can read me when I'm tired and just don't talk to me. Like, I'm coming in from work and it's like a grunt, and then I'm cracking on with my day, going out for my weighted steps or whatever. But I think really your parents are all, if they're good parents, they'll support you. But Katie, bodybuilding and competing is very selfish in terms of it's such a restricted lifestyle for a period of time, and Katie was so supportive of that for at least the majority of prep. But towards the end, she was like, I can't bear you. But even then, like, I knew she was still supporting me through it. Like, she got me through those kind of harder times where I was maybe self-doubting or something and stuff. She was made it a lot easier. And I think that your relationship with your partner can be detrimental or just a huge benefit to your success. And I had sat down beforehand and said, like, obviously having never done it, just kind of what I understood prep to be, this is what we can expect and this is what we've got to come. I'm going to say, I said, are you okay with this? I didn't really. I kind of said, I want to do this. Be cool with it. And to be fair, she was. But I think that I can attribute a lot of that to my success, and that is, it's made it a lot easier. And towards the end, I think Katie had doubts on how she would cope with me if I did it again, because it is such a restricted lifestyle and it does have an impact on your relationship. But then she said herself, when I got on stage, she was like, no, like 100%. I've never seen you that happy. Like, you just looked like you wanted to be up there and that's where you belonged. So she could do it again. Fortunately, next time, if I don't mess my body composition up, I won't be prepping for 25 weeks, so it'll be a much shorter time frame. But yeah, I think my support network was one of the biggest reasons. And even like you as a coach, having you there to just kind of correct me. Like, obviously, you'll know better than anybody that my kind of over-analysis, my self-doubt can restrict my ability to be successful. And again, I attribute that a lot of my kind of mentality towards prep to being just I'm a robot, you're programming me, just do what you tell me. I didn't, like, for the start of prep, I didn't look at my body. I took all my physique updates and stuff, but I didn't really look at myself in the mirror. I weighed myself, put it into the check-in, and then just ignored it until eventually I just looked different. I woke up one day and I was like, whoa, I've got a six-pack. And then I continued that, and then I woke up and I was like, whoa, I've got veins. And that, like, lack of thought power and just letting you do all the thinking and all the programming and just acting on it made me successful, because I didn't have to think about anything. I just trusted that I was going to be ready in time and trusted your ability to coach me there. And all I had to do was just be coachable, be an athlete, and that's kind of how I was successful there.
I think that's like one of the main jobs as a coach is to take that load kind of off your shoulders, if that makes sense. I don't need you to be stressed. I don't need you to be worrying about body weight. I don't need you to be worrying about visuals. I just need you to show up and tick off the goals, and then you just need to let me worry about that stuff. I say worry, probably not the right word to use. You just need to let me control those variables. That's kind of when you come together and kind of meet as a team. If you put in the work and you tick off the goals and follow the plan, and then let me take, you know, the stress and the thought process and all that, and we just come together and we put those two things together, that's when you get like a really, really successful, I'd say, coach-client relationship. And I think that's why it worked really well for us, because we knew from previous diets that like over-analysis, stress, they can massively impact your physique and your ability to pull off body fat. So going into a prep, working with someone that had an understanding of your body, working with someone that knew, you know, we'd been working together for a couple of years at that point. So I knew what I needed you to avoid. I knew that you had to stay pretty low stress. I basically just had built such a good understanding of not just like your body and how you respond, but also like your mindset and how you approach things and everything. So I just wanted to get the game plan over to you and just allow you to disconnect from everything else and just focus on, if you hit these goals, you'll get to where you want to be. And that's pretty much what happened. Yes, it was quite a long prep, just due to the kind of the starting point. We knew that we wanted a little bit more time than usual, because previously we maybe struggled to pull off a little bit of body fat. I knew maybe if the self-doubt crept in or the over-analysis crept in, we had to have a little bit of time banked in order to get over those hurdles. So we did a little bit longer, maybe compared to some other people you might see out there. But we did a little bit longer just as a bit of a safety blanket to make sure that we definitely got you to where you wanted to be. And I'd say through that prep, it was so smooth sailing because of everything that we covered there. Like, all you had to do was show up on the day and tick off the goals and do it. And we got to, you know, the stage and you absolutely smashed it. So like, it honestly couldn't have went much smoother in my opinion. So hats off to you, mate, because you done it. Grafting for 7 months is no easy task for sure. That honestly kind of dives into the next point, like going over some coaching insights and things like that as well. But the main thing that I kind of wanted to cover was your consistency, which we spoke about there. Anything that made your prep difficult was really eliminated in terms of like the mental side of things. Obviously, it was difficult going and doing your steps and doing your cardio. You want to touch on what some of your goals were for the people listening in terms of steps and food? I've got some of it noted down.
So I feel like I can't wake up without thinking about these variables. Towards the back end of prep, cardio was sitting at 55 minutes. Steps were 15,500. Weighted steps get bumped up to half an hour, which equates to about 3,000. Calories were 2,400 on training days, 2,200 on non-training days. I think that was all my variables, and just pure pain.
I've literally got it noted down there, and to be honest, I've heard of people getting way worse than this. I've heard, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours of cardio. I've heard 20,000 steps. So we actually done okay, I would say, to keep things where they were. And I think across the board that equated to around 45 pounds that we pulled off from start to finish, round about then, from kind of highest to lowest. I think it was round about the 45 pound mark, which is pretty ridiculous to think about, pretty nuts. And
considering I didn't lose much size, that was all fat.
You didn't look 45 pounds lighter. If anything, you're looking heavier in those stage shots, which is, you know, part of the illusion. But yeah, that's pretty nuts to think that you managed to do that over a 6-month period. And when some people think about dieting, I'm pretty sure they don't think about 55 minutes of cardio and weighted steps and 15,500 steps and 2,400 calories. That's probably not the glamorous side of it, is it?
To be fair though, I think that it's worth highlighting that those variables only got as high or as low, depending, towards the end. Like when we started prep, like we weren't doing 55 minutes of cardio the whole time. Like that was just when we really wanted to dig for a little bit more conditioning. And when my calories get down to 2,400, which was weeks and weeks out of show day, they never moved again. So it's like, because when I went into prep, I was expecting to be down at like kind of 1,500 calories, like pure poverty calories. And the fact that I stayed up that high made it easier, because I was like, right, well, say I'm 5 weeks out and I'm still eating 2,400 calories. God, well, if they do go down, I can deal with that for a couple of weeks. So like, it's understanding going into a diet, you're not going to start on 55 minutes of cardio. You're not going to start doing 15,500 steps, because if you are, you're wasting variables. You're going to start as low as you can. There was a time where we were only doing, I think, 12 or 13,000 steps for a few weeks, and you rinse that until you can't lose any more weight, and then you increase them. And by doing that, you maximize the amount of weight that you can lose without killing yourself with these variables. And it made it a lot easier, because I was mentally, not towards the end, but at the beginning, I was mentally prepared to do over an hour of cardio, to eat as little as I had to do as many steps as I had to, because the goal meant that much to me. The fact that I never made it a hell of a lot easier. But be aware, they do go that high if you want to get into good condition.
They can definitely go a lot higher than what we were on. So yeah, I'd say we've done pretty well there. Cool. So a question I was wanting to ask you, something I've been thinking about, and we kind of touched on it towards the start of this episode, but how did you know that you were ready to start prep? Like, how did you know this was the year? Like, because a lot of people we speak to, it's always something they want to do. You know, you say, what are you training for? And it's always, you know, I want to compete at some point, but they never know when. Or maybe you ask them, they go, oh, next year. Then you ask them again, oh, next year. How did you know that this year was the year? How did you know that you wanted to prep when we did for this show?
I made it an unnegotiable. So when it came to, as you said, a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to step on stage. I'd love to. And they always push it back. Like, oh, I'll get a wee bit more size and then I'll do it. Or, I need to build my delts a wee bit more and then I can step on stage. And I just decided, no, this is the physique I've got. I'm going to get into condition. I'm going to do it. I turned 24 on Friday the 11th of July. So I was like, right, I'm away to age out of juniors. And I know myself, which is why we need to take a long off season. I don't have the size to go and compete in open yet. But I did have enough size to be competitive as a junior. So I was like, right, well, my timeline, the latest that I can compete is the 28th of June, because that is a couple of weeks before I turn 24. So I just worked back. I was like, right, after that point, I can't compete as a junior. So that's the latest I can compete. So we'll go for that show. And then I worked back. I was like, right, well, how long do I need to get into that physique? 25 weeks. That brought us to the 4th of January. And I was like, right, well, then we worked back. And I was like, I am just going to throw everything I've got at it. And then that way I can say I've done it, and then I can look at myself and assess and be like, where do I need to be better? I'm very fortunate that I just so happened to be good enough to place in the top 3 in my first show, because it's meant that I've got more self-belief going into the off-season and going into my next prep. Whereas
I don't know if I would say fortunate. You worked really, really hard for it. You absolutely grafted your arse off for it. So it's, you know, I wouldn't say fortunate to place in the top 3. You definitely earned that spot in the top 3.
Yeah. I did. I'm being humble for no reason.
Exactly. You definitely, and honestly, like watching you down there, calling it, I thought you had it. I thought you were gonna go and take the W, take the win. Obviously, it was a massive win in itself. Like you, as an experience, you won the experience. You came second, which is amazing. But I did think for a second that you were gonna get first.
See, I try and look for positives in everything. Obviously, a positive would have been winning the show. But if we ignore that for a second, bodybuilding's subjective. So it's down to them where you place. I obviously came second, but what that's given me is a desire to be undeniable next time. So every session that I go into where I'm like, I can't be bothered, I'm going to put more effort in, because I'm like, no, I want to be first next time. I don't want to be second. And then when I'm in my prep, I'll give it just as much. Well, I'll give it more if I've got any more left to give to get in an even better condition, because that way I can be undeniable, because I can't change the result, but I can change my actions going forward, and that's going to dictate my success in the sport going forward. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've taken is, like, yes, it's second's the first loser, but it's a win within itself, because first off, I placed top 3 in my first show, and second off, that has given me, like, I can't be complacent with that. And one of the biggest things I would say about complacency with that placing. I started in a pretty poor body composition. If I had done 25 weeks of prep and came first, I would have then been able to reaffirm to myself that I can start in that composition and come first. Whereas now I know, well, if I start in that composition, I come second. So I can't get to that composition because I want to come first. So it's given me that kind of check yourself every time I think, oh, I want to cheat my diet, or oh, I'll have 2 off-plan meals this week. No, you can't, because you want to come first next time. You don't want to come second. So you need to be better.
You just break it down, and it links back to what you said there when you said the like how you knew you were ready and how you knew this year was the year. You and anyone can apply this to sort of any diet. You kind of break it down to where you want to be and then work back from there. So where is it you want to be? How long is that going to take? Okay, over that time frame, what do we need to work on? What's your biggest weaknesses? We structured in your show so far in advance, pretty much. Like, we knew maybe the year before that rough timelines and roughly when we were going to be dieting. We didn't know the exact show dates until they were released, of course, but we had a pretty good understanding of what your year was going to look like. And it was just a case of, like you said, working back. So okay, if we want to compete roughly around about this time, we know that we're going to need to be dieting for around about this time. So we know we're going to need more muscle. Okay, so over this next gaining phase, we know that we're going to need to push for these areas and try and maximize that gaining phase and try and get as long as we can. And people can do that for any goal that they have. It doesn't need to be a bodybuilding prep. It doesn't need to be anything extreme. Just, okay, where do you want to be? How long is that going to take? What's the biggest things that are holding you back from getting there? Okay, let's address them. And you've got a pretty good time frame of how long it's going to take and what you need to do in order to get there. Yeah. So, yeah, for people that also don't know, juniors is 23 and under, so your birthday's coming up. So we try to maximize that time, right? Yeah. Okay, we know that we want to compete. We know it's going to be juniors. We know we're going to be going up against other first timers. Well, let's just try and maximize our time. What gives us the most amount of time to gain? What gives us the most amount of time to prep? And we pretty much put it together over the course of like a year or so, and knew that was the end goal. And execution from that point onwards towards that, and you absolutely nailed it. So I keep saying that, but you did, mate. I'm actually very, very proud of you, if you can't tell. Proud coach moment. But let's dive into some relatable and fun points. This is what I put down for this. I know we were chatting about it in the car. Fails, weirdest cravings for your food. Let's go through some sort of rapid fire questions. Is there any prep fails or any funny moments that you can think of?
There was a point where I thought it almost brought me to tears, to be fair, but I was play fighting with Katie, and somehow I always come off worse, and I bounced and I bent my thumb back and I thought I broke my thumb, and I was like, oh great, that is prep ruined. I'm not going to be able to press or curl or anything. That's me. I'm never going to be able to get into condition because I can't use my left hand. Fortunately it took a couple of weeks and then it was back to normal, but that was she found it hilarious. She was recording me dancing about my room, holding my hand, fighting back tears, and she's like, oh, this is our airtime. And then right after, the only thing I can think about is that's me. The one goal I've got for this year is it's out. I can't do it anymore. So that was not a fun feeling for me.
All I'm hearing is don't pick fights you can't win.
Yeah. Katie's fucking the height of shite, and I lose every fight I get against her. It's so unfair.
I remember that. That was stressful in the moment. WhatsApp messages. I've broke my thumb. What am I gonna do? I'm like, calm down. Let's not get stressed.
Back to stress. That feeds right back to managing stress. Obviously, totally just went, it's not a big deal. Keaton will deal with that for me. But yeah, that was.
I also became a pro in managing broken fingers through prep. So, what was the weirdest craving for food that you had through prep, or the weirdest craving for food that you're having now?
One of the ones that was really weird is so obviously for my meal one, I have a couple of low calorie sausages and a bagel thin, and see, the more I progressed through prep, I caught myself savouring that meal. Anybody can tell you that's seen me is I will wolf down food, whereas that I was making that last as many bites as I could, and then at night I found myself wanting to go to bed earlier so I could wake up and have that meal. And it was just weird. It wasn't anything off plan. I kind of tried to avoid, on Instagram, I reset my whole algorithm so it didn't show me food. But that was a weird one. And then post-prep, it's just your standard shite. I just want everything under the sun. It's really annoying.
That changed so quickly on show day. down there before the show, and you literally turned around to me and went, "See, to be honest, I just want more like just savoury bagels and like sausages." And I'm like, that is going to change so quickly. In my head, I knew the second you got off stage, you're not going to want to see sausages and bagels for a good while.
Yeah, that annoys me actually. We like literally before I walked backstage, you're like, yeah, that's going to change my words. And I was like, we'll see. It changed.
Yeah. So what was your favourite cheat meal post show that you had? I know you had some cookies and stuff like that, and went out for dinner.
The full day. There was no one thing you can pick for that. I think like coming straight off stage, you seen it. That I got that big like thick cookie thing that was filled with chocolate and stuff. That was unreal. Then as I was walking,
can't even describe what it is. That thick cookie thing, just monstrosity of calories.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to calorie count that. To be fair, they shouldn't place that right at the show. They shouldn't do that. But I was then walking to McDonald's to get the next bit of craving off the list, and my mum and dad went in and got me a tub of Ben and Jerry's, which I turned into an eating challenge. Eating it in about, you'd be lucky if it was there for 5 minutes. Like I just wolfed that down, and then I was actually disappointed with McDonald's. I wanted the Frank's hot sauce burger thing, but they didn't do it in that McDonald's. So naturally I didn't just walk out and not get anything. I got something, but I was like, I wanted that. But yeah, probably the chocolate cookie thing stuck with me. Like I was craving cookie dough towards the end, so that was unreal.
So what is the worst cardio machine, would you say?
Stairmaster.
Stairmaster.
It's not even up for debate.
I know. I knew you were going to say that, and everyone says that. But quick fire round. Had to sneak that in there. What was the thing that got you through your toughest days during prep? Was there a certain thing that got you through? Was it a certain thought? Was it a certain idea? Maybe some of the post-show food and things like that. Holidays, birthdays.
Definitely a mix between support network and my own self-belief. Like I was so scared of failure that I wasn't prepared to not do what needed to be done, but it was made a lot easier with people just kind of egging me on, telling me to get it done, and like being like, it's okay, it's just X amount of weeks left, and then you're there, you're stepping on stage. I think that made it a lot easier.
I think everyone around you also had like the belief in you as well. Like I definitely knew that you could smash it. Like, you know, Kate knew that you could smash it. Your family knew that you were going to go and do everyone proud. Like, I think having a support network of people that were genuinely like excited to see you get on there and do your thing, I think was really cool.
I think also like about 8 weeks out, obviously I was lean, but I wasn't stage lean, and like they were like, "Oh man, there's nothing left to come off you," and I was like, "I need to prove that there is so much more to come off me," because obviously I was 8 weeks out, so I was like, right, cardio of the day, getting that done, getting that smashed out, and then I remember like the week before I was pinching like whatever was left of my fat, and I was like, I tell you there was meant to come off, and you still think that back then there was nothing to come off.
There's always more to come off. If you could do your prep over again, what is the thing that you would do, or is there anything that you would do differently?
Start in a better position. That's something that's going to feed into my next prep. I think that, like, execution-wise, I kind of nailed it. Whatever you told me to do, I did. I think that now that I've experienced it, I kind of know what to expect in terms of, like, how I'm going to feel, not necessarily at certain points, but how I'm going to feel overall. So, like, I'm more prepared for that going in. But I think the starting point is going to factor the biggest and, like, sets you up for success. Like, it'll make it not easy, but easier if I'm not fat. So I think that's the one thing I've took away from it, is that even though like before I started prep, I was like, oh man, I've not let myself get that out of shape. I was fat. So I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I need to be honest with myself, and that's like where just kind of keeping the same discipline as prep into my off season is going to help set me up for that. Instead of you prep for 6 months, you're always on it a year round, and having some level of visible abs full year round is going to help me know whether I'm being successful in that. Because there's no point in putting 5 pounds on if 4 of them is fat. So I think that's probably what I've taken away from it the most, is that your starting point dictates your success.
And that's like totally within your control as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That just comes down to like you said, being lazy, really. Like, you know, sometimes people go into a gaining phase and just use that as an excuse to chase down weight, and you'll see it all the time, you know, when they get heavier, people will set themselves like weight goals, which is, in my opinion, never really that great an idea to do. But yeah, people just chase down. So it's like the starting point of your prep, or the end point of your gaining phase, or your off season, whatever you want to call it. Like, if you can have the same level of accountability through that, then you should be absolutely sweet. But definitely starting in a better position. And you say that to anyone, you say that to lifestyle clients, like, you know, make sure that you're in a pretty decent position to, like, if your goal is to build as much muscle as you can, make sure you're in a good starting point, make sure you get pretty lean, and then go into a gaining phase and try and maximize your gaining phase as much as you possibly can. If you're going into a diet, make sure that you're in a decent starting point and with regards to like cardio and food and stuff like that. If you're going into a diet and you're already eating, you know, like next to no food, and you know you've got yourself in a pretty bad position where there's not really much room to maybe increase your cardio or take your calories down and stuff like that. Like, your starting point is obviously massive for kind of any goal, really. But that's definitely something that we'll be looking at in a little bit more detail with your off season, making sure that we don't get too complacent with visuals, chasing scale weight and things like that.
Yeah, I think something I've learnt as well, like, say, like, for talk's sake, you want to put like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle on in a year, like a lot of people do. Understanding that you don't need to do that in the first 3 months of the year, and that you've got, like, the reason you're taking a year is to do that and have good quality weight going on, is something that I'll need to remind myself of daily. But also, like, body dysmorphia, like, as you'll know over the last week, I'm terrified of putting fat on just now, because it had to work so hard to get to this point where I'm like, I don't want to mess it up. So, like, every time, like, even like my body feels different now, just because I've got like a little bit more water on my frame and maybe a little bit more fat. So, like, when I'm bending over, like, skin, I can feel skin and stuff, and I'm like, it feels different. I don't like it because I was so tight before. So I think that's something that I'm going to need to really work on, just to make sure I don't.
It comes back to disconnecting, like we said there. So don't worry about it. Again, let me control your variables. Disconnect from body weight, disconnect a little bit from visuals. That's my job, to come in and look at your body weight and look at your visuals and look at your goals, and I can manage that. Same thing, set a goal. Well, how do we reverse engineer it? How do we get to that goal? Right, lay out everything needs to be done. You just focus on that work. Let me control everything else. Try and keep stress as low as we possibly can. But I think that's quite a nice place to wrap things up, to be fair. Yep. I was going to chat about your post-show, like what's happening post-show, but I think we've done that. You've got holidays coming up. You've got your birthday coming up. We know that we're going to go into a long off-season. We're going to hit another show at some point in the future. That for that show, we're going to come round a hell of a lot bigger and maybe a little bit leaner.
Multiple shows. I'm putting that in right now. I want to do more than one. I think, like, I loved it that much that I've spent the last week thinking, God, when can I do my next show? When can I do it? So I'm like, it's just planning a season, but not being in prep for as long. I can't do that again. I don't think. Not to Katie. Not if I want to still be in a relationship by the end of it anyway.
I think competing is definitely something that you love. Because I think it's important to note that some people won't love it, and that's absolutely fine. Like, see if you go through a prep and you don't love it and you think, I maybe don't want to do that again. You're not broken. That's cool. Like, it's not for everybody, but something that we've definitely came to the conclusion is that you love it. You're already thinking about when you can do it next. It's something that's going to be in your life for a very long time, and we're going to absolutely nail it, which is exciting. Very, very cool to think about. But yeah, anything you want to end on in terms of where you want to go over the course of this year, or shows or aspirations where you want to take things?
It always comes down to trusting the coach.
This is your chance to be motivational. Where do you want to go? IFBB Pro card.
That is the goal, ultimately. I think that, like, realistically, having a bit of self-belief that my goals, smash this reverse in this kind of maintenance phase, go on holiday, do not become a beached whale. It's not an eating challenge just because I'm on holiday. So, like, when I'm in the all-inclusive, like, just be sensible with decision-making there. Don't make it an eating challenge. And then when I come back, like, taking that regrettable year out, I'm going to take from September probably till the end of 2026. Even though I'm looking at shows in the beginning of 2026, I'm not going to have enough size to do that and be competitive. And the goal isn't to take part, it's to win. And then I want to do some regional qualifiers and possibly even a pro qualifier to see where I stand up against prospective IFBB pros, and then we're shooting for the pro card. So I think full off season, another season under my belt where I get a lot more stage experience and chase down an overall title maybe, and then another off season we go for a pro card.
As always, we just reverse engineer it. How much size do we need? How much time do we have? But we know this is like the long term goals, and we're in it for the long run. This isn't, us saying that we're gonna come for an IFBB Pro card like next year after your first show. Like we're in this for the long run. But I think for the rest of the year, you deserve some downtime, some chill time, especially with Katie and your family. I think you need to go and enjoy some normality for a little bit, and then we can get back to the grind. But I think that's a good place to end it. Lovely chatting to you. First guest, how do you feel?
I feel honoured. I feel honoured to make it. I'll be sitting in my bedroom watching this with Katie.
Love it. But yeah, cheers for tuning in. Probably break this episode into 2 episodes. So if you've listened to both, thank you very much. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanking you.